What stood out for you when it comes to the budget? We know GDP 2.7%, the deficit slightly lower than most people had expected. What really stuck out apart from those numbers?
Well, I looked at the expenditure side and saw that 3.2 trillion budgeted expenditure, actually infrastructure spending until 2020. You know, when you go from page 94 of the budget review, government lists about 43 mega projects. For me, you know, it said to me, the government is serious about getting infrastructure spending to really drive this economy. But we are a bit worried about implementation.
Absolutely. Well, this has actually been the case when it comes to infrastructure spend. We know that we underspent last year and the year before. We've heard this 844 billion number being thrown around many times. Do you think that actually we will see numbers filtering through into this year? Well,
let's hope so. The minister gave that number that in 2010-11, you know, only 68% of that 260 billion infrastructure spending budget was utilized or was laid out. So what we really need to see is spending starting to happen, especially at your municipal level, because really that's where spending should take place. This 845 billion or so for the next 3 years, we just hope that it's going to be implemented. We hope that Transnet, you know, is going to pick up its projects. Eskom is going to continue doing that, but when you look at the road infrastructure, the rail infrastructure, the water infrastructure, we really need to see that money being spent.
Well, I mean, what is positive is that parastatal spending is within the number that was actually tabled. What is of more concern is how it's actually going to impact the overall construction industry, an industry which has been in a very difficult scenario since 2008.
You know, the story that we have to look here is what we call the growth intensity of government's infrastructure spending, i.e. every rand that the government spends on infrastructure, how does it benefit the overall economy? And we need to see that starting to come through so that we can help with this industrialization of our economy. We can help the job creation drive. We can help skills development and also the private sector. I mean, at the present moment, private sector is sitting on excess production capacity. So we can't really expect the private sector really to sort of boost its infrastructure spending when underlying demand is still so very weak. So government has to take that lead, and that should benefit the overall economy, and we should see the private sector coming through.
On the tax front, capital gains tax really disappointing a lot of people. We saw dividend tax coming through higher than most people had expected, and then also a very interesting point is brokers tax that hadn't been in place before. Brokers were exempt, so now they're not. What kind of impact is this going to have?
Okay, brokers now on their own personal accounts now have to pay MST. I mean, it's only 0.25. I think they make a lot of money from their trades. So, I mean, from their side, they shouldn't really feel it, but let's hope that it's going to boost the fiscus. You look at CGT, capital gains tax.
You think it's going to lower the amount of trades that actually come through, which is not going to be good news for the JSE?
Maybe not. Maybe not, because I mean, these guys, I think they really, you know, on their PAs, they really put through a lot of deals, and you know, they should sort of contribute to the fiscus. I just believe that, you know, those trades are going to continue. You look at the dividend tax, you know, 15%. We understand that, you know, government really is looking for that revenue. Disappointing. STC was at 10%, but we believe that, you know, like it should actually boost spending by the corporate sector instead of you know, companies just declaring dividends. They should keep back some of that money and invest in the economy.
A hotly debated topic as well in Gauteng is of course the toll roads, and a cap on that on a monthly basis. The most a consumer will pay is 550 rand. No, further 5.8 billion rand is going to SANRAL to bring down that 20 billion rand debt. This is good news because it will actually also assist a lot of the suppliers from a corporate perspective, which are traveling on those roads, to ensure that they don't actually pass down the increase to the consumer.
Let's hope that, you know, the administration of this new system is going to be top-notch. We're not going to see duplications and all those things. If, you know, costs are going to be kept at 550, it's going to be a good story. I would have preferred that, you know, for the corporate sector, you know, people using the roads for business, contributing to the economy, there was a lower cap, i.e. an incentive or some sort of subsidy to really encourage business to keep on going. Public
sector wage bill. Also under the hammer. It's a political hot potato. Can it be done to ensure that we don't actually increase the wage bill through wage increases above inflation, and also ensuring that government starts slowing down on employing people within the public sector?
In the current budget, the government is looking at that wage bill going up by only around 7% this coming fiscal year. I mean, this past one, we got the similar number, but the number we already have now, the new estimate is closer to 12%. You look at the past 3 fiscal years, wage bill has been going up by on average around 14%. So there is a big worry. The wage bill really is increasingly absorbing more of the government's resources. We know that, when it comes to employee numbers, government has increased those numbers quite significantly since about 2008, but we are watching, because when you look at the revenue side, growth is very moderate. So when it comes to recurrent expenditure, government has to make sure that it also keeps the lead on growth.
Let's touch on NHI. 6 billion rand is what they're talking of in terms of the initial amount that it's actually going to cost. We know that they're earmarking 1 billion rand this year, and they're thinking of very creative ways to fund this.
Well, we're going to have that discussion document, I think, in May this year, and we will see. I mean, the story here is that when it comes to taxpayers, there are so many pressures. Indirect taxes. We are very worried about the level of indirect taxes in South Africa. The consumer is under a lot of pressure. Consumer finances are under pressure, and if we really not going to boost employment in this country, and on the other hand, we're having indirect taxes going up, it's gonna kill the goose that lays the golden egg, unfortunately.